Yeah, why don't we try that? Why don't you guys all mute? Microphone is literally just more than an arm's length away from me, so. I unplugged it and plugged it back in. Jane, I think you said you were having a little trouble yesterday. Maybe somebody said. No, it wasn't Jane, but somebody did. Anyway. All right. Let's start seated. Find a comfortable seated posture. Where you can sit quietly enough to scan your body. Temperature is an interesting thing because sometimes we can feel different temperatures at the same time. Actually, sometimes a few different temperatures at the same time in the body. So notice where you feel warm, where you feel cool. If you feel sweaty, where that is. Dry. And become aware of the movement of your front of your body as you breathe. Become aware of and gently direct your belly to expand first as you breathe in, gradually filling your ribs and upper chest. And as you breathe out, the upper chest moves down, past the ribs, and the belly gently draws in. Move the muscles in the back of your throat so you can rasp a little as you inhale and exhale. Gentle constriction in the back of your throat. Beyond the breath, feel where the center of energy is in your body. Where you notice it the sensation the most. It's not supposed to be anywhere, it's just wherever it is where it is. The feeling of release come across your hairline, your forehead and brow. Soften any muscles around your eyes. Face and jaw. Sides of your neck, particularly in the back. Take your ring finger of your right hand and seal off your left nostril and breathe in and out only through your right nostril. Keep your jaw relaxed so you don't clench your teeth. Next time you exhale, seal off your right nostril with your thumb and breathe in and out only through your left. And notice the difference. Next breath comes in through your left nostril. Seal it off with your ring finger. Breathe out through your right. In through the right nostril. Seal the right nostril off with your thumb and breathe out through the left, and continue like that. Make your way through one more time and end with an exhale out of your left nostril. Let your hands rest in your lap. Back. So prana is energy. Prana is our life energy. Animates our bodies and cells and everything around us that we see that has color and light. And we can stimulate, we can move more prana by breathing than actually we can through yoga postures. But if we breathe in, move, then that's really helpful also. What we just did, so you have to check in yourself for your own experiment. But breathing in and out only through the right nostril stimulates fight or flight response in the body. And breathing in and out only through the left nostril stimulates the rest and relax response. And the alternate nostril breathing, which is what we're actually getting at, is called Nadi Shodhana in yoga, alternate nostril breathing. And it's a balancing breath to balance the energy in the left and right side of the body. If you're like me and you need a little more rest and relax than stimulating fight or flight, breathing in and out of the left side may have felt a little better to you. But if you need a little more stimulation, then breathing in and out of the right side. But it changes all the time. So, if we were in a close call with a car or encounter with a wild animal, then breathing in and out through the right nostril we would do more of that to stimulate flow of that kind of energy in the body. Okay, so hands to your knees and begin to circle your spine. Let your arms hang, elbows hang, shoulders relax. Come back to the center, sit up tall, inhale the arms up overhead. Drop the left hand down, reach the right arm up. Inhale back through the center and find your way over to the other side. And back over to the left. And over to the right. Follow your own breath. One more time to each side. Next time you come over to the right, drop your left hand down onto your right knee and reach the right arm up and turn, twist, and look up at your right hand. Inhale the right arm up, come back to center, drop your right hand down to your left knee. Inhale the left arm up. And release the hands inside both knees. Hinge forward. Slide a little from side to side. And walk the hands out in front of you. Release back. Straighten your right leg out onto the floor, bend your left foot up. Sage pose. Switch legs. Straighten both legs. Lift up tall again. So make sure your back's not rounded and you lift your lower ribs up to straighten the spine and activate the toes and soles of your feet. Inhale the arms up overhead. And round forward, your hands can land anywhere on your leg or as far down towards your feet as you wish. Keep it gentle so you can breathe in it. It isn't about the depth and how much fire you can sustain as it is about balancing both perfectly. Inhale, release, come back, the soles of your feet draw together. Let gravity release your knees towards the floor. You can also grab your big toes if you wish. I like to interlace my fingers below the outside edge of my feet because I get a little release across the top of my shoulders and side of my neck. But your hands can really be anywhere. Some folks like to grab the top of the foot and turn the soles of the feet towards the face. Yeah, that's also perfectly good option. Bounce your knees gently to start and more vigorously as you feel it. Close your eyes. Soft but full breath. Training ourselves over and over to breathe gently, but with an exhalation that's longer than the inhale. Three more belly breaths with long, slow, and deep exhale. Make sound with your ujjayi breath, your constricted throat exhalation. Draw your heels in as close as you can into your body and reconnect to the soles of your feet. Elbows inside your thighs, inside just above your knees, and hinge forward with a straight back. And then keep the soles of your feet together and slide your feet out, your heels out, away from your body. The soles of the feet stay together the whole time. Go as far away from the body as you can and still touch the soles of the feet together, and then follow that with your chest, forehead, rounding forward toward the inside of your ankles. Inhale, release back to center, and find your way onto your hands and knees into table. Good. Tented fingers today, even if you normally have your hands flat on the ground. Straighten your left leg up behind you. Your fingers stay tented. Squeeze space between the toes on your left foot, your lifted leg. And bend your left knee. Reach the sole of your foot back towards the ceiling, up towards the ceiling. This will be a little tricky on tented fingers, but reach back with your right hand and grab your left foot. Draw the heel in towards your body. Good, and release. Fingers stay tented. Straighten your right leg up behind you. Strong through the quads, strong through the outside of your right leg. Feel the energy of it all the way up through your hip and lower back. Bend the right knee. Press the sole of the foot up towards the ceiling. And find your balance to find your right foot with your left hand. Tense your fingers again. Swing the right foot all the way forward and in between your hands. Make sure you have a blanket or something underneath your left knee. I have 3 yoga mats, if you're curious. I like my knees. Lift your left foot up off the floor. Reach back with your right hand and grab your left foot with your right hand. Draw the heel towards your body. And roll your right shoulder up towards the ceiling. Look up towards the ceiling. And release to tented fingers, back to table. And pick your left knee up, squeeze the thigh towards your ribs and slide your left foot through in between your hands. Bend the right knee up off the floor. The right foot up off the floor. And reach back and grab the top of your right foot with your left hand. Draw the heel back towards your body. Turn and look up towards the ceiling, rolling your left shoulder up towards the ceiling. Good, and release. Curl the back foot under. Press up to lunge. The breath is the fuel to sustain the posture. Postures come much more easily when we connect through the breath to them. Drop the right knee back down to the floor, back through table. Extend your right leg out behind you, then draw the right foot forward and press up to lunge on the other side. Where do you feel the sweetness of this pose? Or is it all effort? Is it all work? If it is, back off a little bit till you can feel some of the sweetness. Taste the sugar. Step the back foot forward, hang over your toes. Uttanasana. Standing forward bend. Lazily bounce the upper body and shoulders and head towards the floor. Shake your head a little bit. And begin to come to some stillness, but still hanging in your forward fold. The crown of your head is searching for the tops of your feet. Tense your fingers, step your right foot back to lunge. Drop your right foot down, right heel down to the floor. Reach your right arm forward towards the front of the room. Fire up the quad of your right leg. And squeeze the legs together to come up, warrior two. Palms awake and up. Left elbow drops down onto your left thigh. Right arm extends into side angle. Extend into side angle. One straight line of energy all along your right side. Left elbow, left thigh. Good. Release the right hand to the floor. Come back up onto the ball of your right foot. Bring your left hand back to your left hip. Roll the left shoulder open and reach the left arm straight up towards the ceiling. Release back to lunge. Step forward and hang over your toes and forward fold. Roll it up one vertebrae at a time. Come up to standing. Inhale the arms up overhead. Hold the arms overhead. Look straight ahead with your eyes closed. Spine lifts out of your pelvis and hips. Good. Exhale. Release your hands to your hips. Draw your elbows back so your shoulder blades draw together. Bend your knees. Hinge forward. Tense your fingers. Step the left foot back to lunge. Drop the left heel down. Reach the left arm forward, out over the top of your mat, as long as you can find. And then scissor your legs together, squeeze your legs together to press up. Warrior two with palms up. Extended side angle, right elbow to your right thigh, left arm towards the front of the room. Longer through the left side, all the way from your middle finger all the way down to the outside of your left heel. Good. In, release. left hand on the floor outside your right foot. Roll back onto the top of your left foot again and reach the right hand back to your right hip. Peel the shoulder, the right shoulder up towards the ceiling and extend the right arm up and look. Release back to lunge. Plant your hands flat on the floor. Step back to plank. Good. Stabilize your plank by widening out your fingers and squeezing your pelvis towards your chin. Exhale to downward dog. Step the feet out a little wider if you need to. Good. Release your knees and sit back on your heels or take child's pose. Press your hips up off your heels, bring your hands to your hips. Walk your knees out a little wider. So you have a nice stable base from side to side. Shift your weight a little bit from the left knee to the right knee so you feel nice and stable and secure. Curl your toes under. Good. Reach your left arm up, look up. Lift your chest up, so lifting more up through the front of the body than collapsing in the lower back. And then make a big swoop, big circle with your left arm. And come back to center. Inhale the right arm up. So lifting as high as you can through the right side as if you were trying to reach something on the ceiling or place something or grab something on a really high shelf. So it forces you to keep your back long rather than collapsing down. If you collapse the lower back, you won't be able to reach as high. And then begin to make circles with your right arm. One more. Good. Hands to your hips, tops of your feet back to the floor. Widen your knees up, big toes touch. Sit back to your heels. Child's pose. Nice, relaxed, round back, lower back, and sacrum. Press back up to table. Curl your toes under. And bring your hands back to your hips. Widen your knees out again for a nice stable base. This is the variations on camel that we're moving ourselves into. It's a It's just as important to open the front of the body as it is the back. And actually for modern people like us, it may be actually more important to open the front of the body because we spend so much time rounding ourselves. So bring your thumbs outside of your hips and try to touch your pinkies or move your fingertips towards each other on your sacrum. Squeeze your elbows together, shoulder blades together, open the chest and look up. Push the front of your hips towards the top of your mat. Good, and release. Hands to the floor, tops of the feet to the floor. And back to child's pose, this time with your chest pressed away from the floor. Modified child's pose. Press the hips into the tops of the feet. Press your tailbone to the floor to elongate the spine. Drop your chin to your chest. Slide your ears toward your biceps so you feel the opening in your upper back right below your shoulder blades, which is your thoracic spine. And come back to table, curl the toes under again, and we'll take another variation of camel hands to hips. So if you have a block at home, you could use a block. You could place a block outside of your left ankle right now. So there's a couple ways to come into this. One would be to simply reach back and place your hand on your left heel. The other one would be to swim the arm back and then grab your left heel. Reach the right arm up. Always move slowly, carefully, purposefully when doing any kind of back bend. And then swim the left arm up and the right arm down. Left arm stays up. Right hand reaches back for your heel as a tester, and then inhale the right arm up and reach back and find the right heel. The pelvis and hips again move towards the front of the room. If you are up against the wall with the front of your quads and the front of your hips and pelvis, you'd be right up against the wall. One more breath in and then lift away. Tops of the feet press into the floor. Widen the knees out. And round your back into child's pose. Come down onto your elbows. And rest in child's pose. And feel. And notice how even though we're stretching and opening the front energy lines in the body, when we come into child's pose, we feel this interesting release in the lower back, the lumbar spine region. Wrap your hands around behind you and grab your heels, forehead on the floor. Inflate your belly with your breath as much as you can. Press it into your inner thighs and feel how that opens the ribs along the spine. One more full breath in and out. Next breath in, the hands reach all the way forward towards the top of the mat. The fingers grab nice and wide on your mat. Palms fully expanded and pressed into the floor. Come forward. Curl your toes under. Lift your tailbone up towards the ceiling and then load up. So squeeze your tailbone back towards your heels. We're going to press up into downward dog. Take a breath in. Engage your armpits like you're trying to hold a softball or a grapefruit or something underneath your armpit. Widen your feet out to the edges of the mat to make your downward dog a little easier to sustain. And then reach your right hand up underneath you and touch the muscles underneath your armpit. Squeeze, just play with engaging those muscles underneath your left armpit as you hold a three-pointed downward dog, and then drop the right hand back down to the floor. Take a breath here. Engage your armpits again and hold it and lift the left hand up and feel what's happening there. No matter how much you squeeze the muscles around your armpits in downward dog and then release the left hand back down to the floor. No matter how much you squeeze, the muscles there aren't as firm as you think they are. Good. Release back down onto your knees and into child's pose. Knees nice and wide so the belly and chest have lots of room to slide towards the floor. Elbows bent to rest your forehead on the back of your forearms or wrists. And walk your elbows forward, walk your knees back, come down onto your belly. Tops of the feet press into the floor. Press your chest away from the floor. Thumbs up, straight up towards the ceiling. And then, as if you're trying to pull your elbows back towards your ankles, pull your elbows back and press into your pelvis at the same time, and then release that and slink back down into your puppy. And then press the elbows into the mat, press your forearms into the mat to lift the chest away. You're engaging again. Open your palms up, thumbs up towards the ceiling. Take a breath in. And as you exhale, squeeze your elbows back towards your hips and lift the chest a little more. So the spine's getting longer, not more round, not more collapsed in the lower back. And then release and drop down. Good. Bend the elbows and rest the forehead on your wrists. Let everything go. Walk the elbows back underneath your body again. Press the chest away from the floor and bring your right hand behind your left elbow so your right forearm is across your chest. Bend your left foot up, reach back with your left hand, grab the top of your left foot, draw the heel in towards your body. Release, left arm in front of your chest, bend the right knee, find the right foot. Keep your chest pressed away from the floor, don't let your chest collapse towards the floor. Good, in release. Tense your fingers out wide so your arms and your elbows are bent at a 90-degree position. Tense your fingers and press your chest up a little bit. And then touch your nose, chin, or forehead towards the floor. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Keep pressure in your fingertips. Arms still bent at 90 degrees. Take a breath in. And as you exhale, press into your fingertips, lift up. Spine stays long. And then release. Chin, nose, or forehead, or all three on the floor again. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. We're going to do this one more time. Take a breath in. Press up. Excellent. And release down to the floor. Roll to your right and onto your back. Hug your knees into your chest. And begin to move from side to side. Find a position that feels soothing to you. That may be an expanded movement or smaller and smaller rocks from side to side that eventually turn into stillness. As the breath recap comes back into balance, drop the feet back down to the floor. Knees bent. Hands down by your heels. Your fingertips may brush your heels, or maybe you can grab your Achilles or grab the outside of your ankle, but fingertips are moving towards the heels to prepare for bridge pose. Draw the knees towards each other. Your feet are wider than hip distance apart. And your big toes move towards each other just a little bit, which makes it a little easier to draw the knees together. Draw the knees together so much that they touch. Lift the sacrum off the floor a little bit. And then release everything back down to the floor. Arch your lumbar spine as if you're going to move through a series of pelvic tilts. Take a breath in and then exhale. Press the lumbar spine towards the floor. Sacrum away from the floor and come up into bridge pose. And sustain bridge pose with your palms flat on the floor, or interlace your fingers underneath your body. Press into the soles of your feet. There's energy in the quads here. If the foot position is right, that almost feels as if you're pushing your kneecaps towards the bottom of your mat, which creates the lift. One more breath in and then release one vertebrae at a time down onto the floor. Hug the knees in and gently from side to side. Release your feet to the floor again. Straighten your legs. Relax your arms down by your side. Release your jaw. Close your eyes. Rest. Let it go. find your way back. Slowly. And once you make your way up to a seated position, close your eyes. Feel the prana moving in your body. And the wonderful benefits of a yoga practice is we get this feeling of being pranified that's lasts a while, lasts longer than other feelings that we might like in our body. And it's like food for the next leg of the journey. So thank you for practicing yoga this morning. May the infinite intelligence of this prana always draw us back to it. May we find the way. Namaste. All right.
Thank you. That was terrific.
All right. Did it work in Mountain Standard Time?
I did.
Good. And did it work in Florida time, Henry?
Worked perfectly. Just like Tom Brady up the coast. Like an hour open me.
Yeah. I was thinking that I don't know. I heard a little bit. I had to run to my daughter to CBS after the game last night, and so I was listening to the banter on sports radio on the way, and they had Brady on for a minute. And it was must have been the syndicated national radio, and he was doing a little post game interview, and how do you do it, Tom? Like, what's this formula? And he's like, it's all in my book. If you can either you can read the book and either do what's in the book, or some people have the will to do that, and some people don't. It's what I do, and it works for me. So it made me work for him, doesn't it? Yeah, it made me curious to kind of read his book a little bit. It would be a great luxury, to have folks prepare those meals for you the way that he does and stuff, but and to have the time to prepare those foods, because it does take time to prepare those foods, and it's so easy, I was up visiting my 80-year-old aunt, and she's lived on the side of a mountain all by herself for 20 years after her husband died, and she's always been really healthy, but she had a few habits that probably contributed to having some health challenges now. And one of them, I kind of look at sort of some of the foods that she's gravitates towards, and over a 50-year period, or 55 or 45-year period, eating those kinds of foods all the time. And I'm not talking crazy stuff. I'm just salty crackers and some cheese and things like that. And, may not contribute to that, you might not notice it, but at 80 years old, if you're still living off cheese and crackers, it's not, it's harder to move that energy, and I guess I saw that really clearly, when I was up there, because I was it was, I was forced to eat that way because it's what the food was that was there, you know. She actually didn't have any food, but the only food I could get her to eat was those kinds of things, and while it was all comfort food, you know, it wouldn't have been the way that I would have chosen to eat for those 3 days, you know, had I had my druthers, you know. But it was interesting of how, you know, it's the food is one of the things that's so it can suck you back in so quickly. To, you know, you eat one way and you're doing experiments, or however, you know, I like to experiment with food, so I'll experiment with whatever, you know. One of the experiments I'm doing right now is I'm avoiding eggs. And
Yeah, you told me that.
yeah.
You felt you had some theory that there's some sort of a bacteria or something in the eggs that is bad.
Well, actually, there's this guy, the medical medium, and I don't know, he may be a crackpot, but the thing that we can do, anybody can give you any kind of advice on what you should eat or shouldn't eat, but our bodies are the ultimate petri dish, you know. So if we don't eat something, when I hear some advice like that, well, celery juice does this or that, or eating eggs does this or that, or not eating meat does this or that, well, let's see, you know, let's, you know, do it for a while and see what happens. And I don't miss
Does
the
that
egg.
mean not eating anything that has eggs in it as well? Like,
well, he probably doesn't, but that's, you know, when you got a family of
That'd be hard
6
to
and
do.
4 kids, that's a little tougher to do. But I'm sure there's some eggs in Giuseppe's pasta, you know. But it's interesting to do experiments anyway.
But also too, like it depends on when you're eating the eggs. Like if you're stressed or if you're on the go, like if you're sitting down and enjoying the eggs and having a leisurely meal, they might be great. But then if you're on the go, the kids trying to get them out of the house, trying to eat and do something else, they might not agree with you.
Yeah, this medical medium guy is actually kind of interesting. I was really into him for a while, and then things got crazy with COVID, and I sort of lost track, you know, of what he was up to, and haven't really followed it that much. But his basic theory is everybody, like all 4 of us right now, have Epstein-Barr virus.
Yeah.
We just don't know it.
Yeah.
And what eggs do is they serve as a petri dish to allow that bad bacteria to flourish in our bodies. And he you know, he claims special knowledge from shining beings that, you know, give him medical information that, you know, we won't have for 30 years in modern, you know, medicine. But I don't know, you know, I did the celery juice thing for over a couple of years, and thinking that it's good for blood pressure and good for protecting teeth, and, you know, I still needed dental work and I still had to manage my blood pressure. But what I can say though is that with any kind of change like that, these are changes that, like I love what Ram Dass says. He says the Western mind is so leading of the intellect that we tend to buy where we ought to be before we're there. So celery juice is going to lower blood pressure. Celery juice is going to not give you cavities. And so you, like a week later, you're expecting not to have a cavity. But what I've learned with dietary changes is, like, a dietary change in our linear time is you know, years. So when I stopped eating meat for 3 years, I was still experiencing changes in my body 3 years later, like dramatic changes in my body 3 years later. Not all were beneficial, but that just, you know, this shows you the time horizon that, you know, some of these experiments have to be done over to really feel what's happening. So it actually may be that drinking celery juice and you won't have any more cavities, but it might take 10 years of doing it for it to do something, you know? It's just, it's interesting to, but, you know, we have this, you know, thing to experiment, so we can.
Talking about diet, food diet, you know, how you nourish your body with food and eating. One of the biggest things I've taken away from the 40-day transformations, the two of those that I did in the advance, was the one when we talked about the notion that it's all food. Everything is food, not just what we're putting in and chewing or spinning up in a bullet and making it the celery juice smoothie or whatever it might be. And I think for me, probably the last thing on that little checklist would be, Cheez-Its and cheeseburgers and pretzels. But what I watch, what I read, what I think, who I'm around, whose energy I allow in, whose energy I don't, that's been more transformational, or has the potential to be more transformational to me. And it's way more prone to relapse. If I flip on something on TV and watch it, I can immediately feel the effects on my spirit and on how I feel, way more than if I had a handful of Cheez-Its or pretzels, which I really like, unfortunately. I was raised that way, So I think I am a believer in something that I learned from you and from my Roots Rings family, which is out there, I think, is part of the teachings that are available. I have to learn from you and by doing it, is that it's all food. And if I turn on something that's going to trigger me, I'm going to get triggered.
Right.
And I'm not going to feel good.
The interesting
So I try not to do.
The reason why we experiment with food in the 40-day program, one of the reasons why we experiment with food in the 40-day program, because as hard as it is to do an experiment with food, it's easier to do an experiment with food to see what happens than it is to do an experiment with the other non-food forms of food. Like, I'm going to give up, hanging out with people that make me feel stressed, or I'm going to, those kinds of experiments are much, much more difficult to do. The food that is in the form of emotional energy is a lot harder to experiment with than like this. I can decide to eat my phone or not. I'm not going to eat it for a week and see what happens. I can't. I don't even have the opportunity anymore to hang out with mom for a week and see how I handle that. You know what I mean? So the other thing that Ram Dass used to say, and many other teachers have said this, if you think you're advancing in your spiritual practice, go hang out with your parents for a weekend and see how you do.
The other one I always hear is people say, well, how are you doing? And I always say, well, I'm not sure. Why don't you ask my wife how I'm doing?
Yeah.
You'll get a much more honest answer.
Yeah. I'm friends with a couple of dear friends that have done a lot of, deep spiritual work. When I go away and do stuff for me, and for my own personal practice, there's a group of folks that I've done some things with, and a couple of them, you naturally gravitate towards certain souls in the group that are, it's easier for you to communicate with, and there's other people in the group that you love them and everything, but it's not, you wouldn't call them up when you're in a time of need kind of thing. And so we have this group, it's called, we call it the Witness Protection Group, and we've all agreed to basically bear witness to each other. So if there's no octopus on my face, that they will point out the octopus. So the thing that we can't see that is obvious to everybody else, they will reflect that back we'll reflect those back to each other. And it's not always a comfortable thing to do, but but when you have somebody that loves you enough that's willing to tell you how you're showing up, that's not somebody that you're married to or that's in your immediate family, I can accept it in a way that I can kind of work with that energy. But when my wife points out the octopus that's on my face, I don't like it so much, right? The people who are closest to us, the ones that we least want to point out to us, where we are, right? So it's kind of that's how the way it works, I guess. And when it's your kids, it's even more. When your kids tell you where the octopus is on your face, that's the worst, right?
Right. Well, I read something that went, recently, somebody, was that, the point of marriage is not to, make, what is it, for adults to make children, but it's for, children to make adults. And,
Yeah.
you know, it is a game changer when the kids come along now.
You know, Chum Nim would always say, if there is something coming out in the children that's like a behavioral thing or whatever, it's look at yourself, because wherever your game's not on, you know, it's gonna come out sideways in your kids. They may have their own karma also, and they do. But there's another guy, Dave O'Shaughnessy, there's this guy from Finland who was around a couple of years ago, and
Yeah, I remember him, yeah.
yeah. Were you there for that, Leslie? Were you for Dave O'Shaughnessy? No, the Finnish
No.
guy. He was really cool, and he told me one, you know, that this whole spiritual concept, everything's an illusion. And I guess intellectually I could kind of get there that everything's an illusion, and I've read the books, and I can kind of do a mental, you know, intellectual trip on myself to convince myself that everything's an illusion. But I asked him one day, I said, geez, Dave, you know, my kids seem pretty real. Can you explain that one to me? I'm having a hard time, you know, seeing my kids as an illusion, you know? And he said that, I'll never forget what he said. He said that when your soul comes into existence, it's like popcorn popping. It all doesn't pop at the same time. And so your kids are just another aspect of your soul that comes into its being later. And that helped a lot. That helped a lot.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have a great day. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great, Mike. Great, good class, and, good to see everybody.
Yeah, you too. Fun.
See you guys. See you soon.
Bye all.
Stay warm.
We are.
Hey, was the sound good? I guess so. It's off now.